What if I told you that the most joyful, most colorful, most gloriously over-the-top celebration in American history almost never happened? And that the people who started it were just ordinary citizens who refused to let anyone take away their joy. Stay with me until the end, because this story is going to make you see every celebration in your life a little differently and remind you why joy is always worth fighting for. Picture the streets of New Orleans in the early 1800s. The city is unlike anything else in America. It is loud, layered, and alive, a mix of French, Spanish, African, and Caribbean cultures woven together into something completely unique. And every year, as winter fades and spring approaches, the people of New Orleans do what their ancestors in France and the Caribbean have always done. They celebrate, they dance, they feast, they dress in costumes and fill the streets with music. Because in just a few days, the Christian season of Lent will begin, and with it, 40 days of fasting and sacrifice. But here is where the story gets interesting. American authorities are not exactly thrilled about all of this. In fact, for years, the city's governors have tried to shut it down. Too loud, too disruptive, too wild, too free. And the people of New Orleans say, in their own beautifully stubborn way, absolutely not. On February 27, 1827, something shifts. A group of young New Orleans students, freshly returned from studying in France, takes matters into their own hands. They organize, they plan, and they take to the streets in full costume for what becomes the first officially recognized Mardi Gras parade in American history. Now think about what that moment means. These are not kings, politicians, or powerful men making a grand declaration. These are young people, students, who simply love their culture and refuse to let it disappear. The crowd that gathers is enormous. Music pours from every doorway. Strangers dance together. For one night, the rigid social divisions of the early 1800s soften just a little, and something rare and powerful takes over. Pure, unguarded human joy. Here is a number that tells you everything. Today, nearly 200 years later, Mardi Gras brings more than 1.4 million visitors to New Orleans every single year. That is roughly twice the city's entire population, all coming together for one shared celebration. But the real magic is not in the numbers. It is in what those students understood that the authorities did not. Joy is not a distraction from life. Joy is the point. What those young New Orleanians preserved that night was not just a party. It was a story. Their story. The story of who they were, where they came from, and what they refused to forget. Every float, every costume, every song carried memory. It carried the voices of grandparents and great-grandparents who had crossed oceans and built something extraordinary in a city unlike anywhere else on Earth. And that tradition of passing stories forward, of saying, this is who we are and where we came from, is one of the most deeply human things we do. Because here is the truth. Every family has its own version of Mardi Gras. Not a parade necessarily, but a tradition, a recipe, a song, a story told at the dinner table every year that makes everyone laugh, even though they have heard it 100 times. Those moments are the glue that holds generations together. Those students in 1827 did not know they were making history. They just knew their stories, their music, their joy mattered. And that makes me think about you. About the celebrations and traditions in your own family that only you carry, the stories behind them, the people who started them, the reasons they mattered then and still matter now. Have you ever thought about what happens to those stories if they are never written down? The recipes had no measurements because Grandma just knew. The joke that only makes sense if you know the backstory. The tradition that began as something funny and became sacred. Those stories are yours, only yours, and the people who come after you will treasure them more than you could ever imagine. Those students in New Orleans fought to keep their story alive. Yours deserves the same fight. If today's story lit something up in you, then you are exactly where you belong. History Sparks is here every single day, finding the real, the human, the surprising stories that history almost let slip away. This community is growing, and we want you in it. Hit subscribe, come back tomorrow, and bring someone who loves a great story with you. Before you go, I want to ask you something. I am working on a free guide just for History Sparks subscribers that will walk you through capturing and writing your own family stories. Your memories, your people, your legacy. Something your children and grandchildren will hold on to long after you are gone. No writing experience needed, just your heart, your history, and the stories that only you can tell. Would you want something like that? Drop a yes in the comments right now and let me know. Because your story is worth telling, and the world is waiting to hear it.